Doop-a-dee-da-ba-ding. Doop-a-dee-da-ba-dee-ding. Let's see if we're live on the YouTube.
So when you post this, will this section be like included in the post or in the video, or will you cut this bit?
Yeah, we are live right now on Twitter.
Oh, great. Time to chill. Luke, you're back. We missed you. Where were you?
I was climbing into my house. I've been busy. I've been busy this last week. I flat out.
When you were gone, did you leave your window open the entire time for like a week?
Yeah. Yeah, I did actually.
But you live in a safe neighborhood.
Call me California.
Luke, you gonna shill it? Tweet it out?
Well, with my location where I live.
No. The live stream.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
We're going up against Michael Saylor talking about Bitcoin.
Oof. Yeah, sorry.
That was trending.
But I appreciate the plebs that are here with us, because that means you're the true plebs. You don't need all that noise of, I mean, think about how many people were in there just with hopium of like, please, Michael, tell me you bought more. Please. Just get rolling here in a second.
You didn't tag me in anything on Twitter.
It's on the Bitcoin Made Simple handle, Twitter handle. The Bitcoin Simply.
This Luna thing, I'm pretty much gonna. Do you get my voice message that I sent you in the group chat?
Yeah, I like that idea. We
Cory?
are live though, so
Yeah.
maybe not disclose it.
We are live.
Well, I was gonna say, we want to break down this Luna thing. I've got a heap of tabs pulled up because I'm about to record a video on it.
Yeah. No. Oh shit.
Hey, if I want to include Terra Luna in the tweet, I'm gonna retweet. Which one should I do? The Terra Luna Daily or Terra Luna World?
That's a good question.
Well,
I'd say Terra Luna.
Whatever.
What's today's date? May 12th. Okay. All right. Shall we start?
Let's do it. When we post it, are we going to cut it here?
In post, I'll cut it. Yeah. This is just us rambling and getting started.
How's my audio at the moment? How I haven't plugged in my mic.
Yeah, no, plug in your mic, please.
Okay. Well, my fucking headphones are shit. So,
I mean, I'm not using headphones. This is a prop.
is that any better?
Much better.
Much better.
Okay. Is it too loud?
No, just fine.
All right.
Just fine.
Well, I can hear you guys heaps better, so it's better for me too.
Oh, if it's better for you, it's better for me.
So I just want to like come out swinging, start first, talk CPI and stuff, and then Luke can riff off of that.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. So welcome in to News Made Simple for May 12th, 2022. We want to thank our sponsor, BitBox02 hardware wallet, which is the sexiest hardware wallet of all the hardware wallets out there.
Mm.
And also Movies Plus, go watch a bunch of Bitcoin documentaries there, and etc, etc. But yeah, let's jump into it. So there's a couple things to talk about. There is the Luna news, and then also Phil, go ahead, what did you want to get into?
Oh, well, CPI is at whatever
Record high, yeah. I
whatever
mean,
percent. Who knows? Who cares? I actually forgot about that happened until someone brought it up in the spaces I was on yesterday. I'm like, oh, well, we knew it was screwed. But that whole thing is really kind of forcing the Fed to actually cramp down on inflation, because they're not screwing around, as I've already talked about before. And it's also causing Christine Lagarde to come out and say, hey, we are going to actually stop QE and we are going to start raising rates. And it's just revealing how these Davosians, like Davos, EU people that are just trying to manipulate the world to their liking based on their Keynesian agenda and their models, it's really blowing up in their face, and they are stuck with nothing else but to face reality of what's actually happening and just face the music, and basically taking the just following the example that Powell was trying to lay out. I predicted last week, or I just had a guess, that equities would rally after the announcement of a point or a 50 basis point rise last week, which we did get. Hells yeah. And we're seeing the dollar escape from the EU back into equities. Now, the day after, there was tanking, and I think it was basically just European money flooding in, like, oh my gosh, the EU is literally trying to kill us. Ukraine, as of yesterday, announced that they have cut off oil, like sending their oil to the European Union. And this is all just because, oh, well, Putin's doing this and that. And I don't even know, but they're trying to hurt themselves to let people know that we are serious and we're going to win this. But regardless, yes, you saw some capital flight come out of Europe, and equities went up like the day and slash day after, I think, the announcement. And then it just kind of tanked because I think it was just a repricing and people were trying to figure out, if the Fed's actually going to do this, then it's going to kill off a bunch of malinvestment zombie companies, and people are going to step back, run to dollars, and just analyze, where am I going to put this? Because capital flows to where it's treated best. And I think that's another reason why you're seeing the 10-year treasury at 3 point whatever percent, because people are selling debt. They're selling debt to run to dollars. And now they're just going to step back, and they're buying the dips, not in just Bitcoin, but in everything else. And I think time is just going to play out. But this is that reallocation of capital, and people realizing that this low interest rate funny money bullshit is exactly that. It is bullshit. It is not working. It has not worked. It's only worked on paper. And now we're just seeing the hens come home to roost. And what happens from here is quasi predictable, because the dollar is going to fail eventually. Even if it's by deflation, you're just going to have it have that implode. And I think this is where everybody in the world runs to Bitcoin and puts Bitcoin on their treasury. When that happens, no one knows. But that's pretty much what's playing out. You're seeing capital flight. You're seeing the elites, the oligarchs, just trying to scramble and do exactly what is necessary, because their Keynesian agendas are failing. They'll come back to them, but they're just trying to say what they need to say, but also take the action of tightening. Exactly. Dude, as soon as I said that came into my head. But even the oligarchs, Greece, they could actually do like a Grexit, because their imports and just geolocation is so vital to Europe. And even some of the Greek oligarchs came out and said to Christine Lagarde or whoever was saying, you can't ship any more oil or any other products to Russia or people that deal with Russia. And like, money talks. And even if these oligarchs are tight at the WEF, it doesn't matter, because they like their position. This is just the same example of why the Fed and the banks and Wall Street are standing up and tightening and proving credit worthiness because they don't want to follow the Davos agenda, because they want to keep what power they have, the money transmission mechanism. And the same thing goes for Greek oligarchs, because they have clout, they have power, they run whatever they ship, export, just they have prime real estate where they're at, and the EU needs them. And so you're actually starting to see people at the helm, I guess, if you want to call it, speak out against this globalist catastrophe that is being pushed from the Davosian agenda. So that's kind of like a huge kind of world picture of what's happening. And as we'll get into with Terra Luna, having that blow up is, I mean, we can get into conspiracy theories about this. I haven't really put a lot of thought into it, and I just kind of haven't put a lot of thought towards this thing to begin with, because I knew it was just bullshit and funny money. But you're seeing it falling and having a prime example. Maybe it was through Gensler or other insiders in DC, just maybe playing the market and trying to intentionally implode this project with their money, maybe to buy more Bitcoin, or also to just say this example, we need to swoop in and be the protectors of the public, like we have for decades and arguably centuries, because we're the special people and the centralized planners that know better. And of course, they don't care about us. They just want to be able to control capital. And so this whole trying to pass all these sanctions and prevent capital flight and passing these new regulations are a prime example of, we are seeing Davos just be at their knees scrambling to control what power that they still have. And this passing of $40 billion or whatever it was to keep the war in Ukraine going is kind of like their last ditch effort amidst CPI being at 8.3 whatever percent it is. I mean, it's kind of their last ditch effort to throw in money in this like slush fund thing to get whatever investment they have left, because they know that people are going to wise up to it and say, hey, we don't want to be part of this war. This is now becoming a civil war economically and everybody. So it all is connected. It's the monetary contagion of just the manipulation of people at the helm. And even though Bitcoin's low, everything else is low. This is just people running to dollars and just coming to terms and trying to be stoic and think clearly, maybe saying that is giving them too much credit, but them just realizing, hey, where am I going to put my money next? And that's where Bitcoin wins. Take it away, whoever's turn it is.
Bitcoin always wins.
Bitcoin does always win. You opened up so many cans of worms there, Phil. I don't even know which one to start with. So I suppose the big news is CPI came in at, what was it, 8.5%? So it's actually, is it decreased? Was it 8.9 in the last monthly meeting?
Whatever it is, just tack on 10 more.
Yeah, because that's the real number. The real number they're not telling you about is on ShadowStat's website, and the real inflation rate's up at around 18 or 19%. So there could be a lot of volatility in the CPI inflation metric. I actually wouldn't be surprised if it come down a little bit over the next couple of months, because it does work off like a 12-month rolling basis. And I think 12 months ago, was it May or June? That's when inflation actually started picking up over 4 to 5 to 6%. So I think we could see some volatility in the index. But Phil, you nailed it. It's just a continuation of the same trend. You're going to see, in my opinion, CPI continue to increase for the rest of the decade, and it'll be very volatile. But we're just watching the death of fiat currency, and the closer we get to the end game, I think the more volatile things will get. And like you're saying, Phil, I think capital will flow to the US dollar and Bitcoin.
Yeah. And again, those are what's happening now with regulations, restrictions, is them trying to use whatever powerful tools that they think they have to maintain what power that they still have. And so it's just them being afraid. Like they lost a long time ago. This is just them saying the quiet parts out loud through their actions.
They're figuring it out, or they're starting to admit that they are losing.
Yeah, they smelled their own farts for far too long, and they're realizing they're bullshit.
Hey, but if your farts smell good, why don't you just sit in them?
I mean, everyone likes their own brand, but hey, I wonder if all their farts smell the same.
Well, I mean, if you go to,
eating babies probably does the same thing to your body as the next guy who eats babies. So maybe they all have the same odor.
Well, you got to think too. You have the evil of the world, and they smell like sulfur. So there you go.
Well, speaking of
farts.
speaking of shit, I think Phil, you brought it up earlier. You kind of touched on it there, talking about Terra Luna. I suppose we should break that news down because we've watched like a top 6 quote unquote blue chip cryptocurrency lose $40 billion of market cap in the past week. So maybe should we just dive straight on into that, explaining what Luna is and what the UST stablecoin is?
Do it.
Yeah. I mean, because let's look at what is going on at the moment.
So Luna has gone
go ahead.
from
You explain Luna while I get this information pulled up.
Yeah, so essentially, your stable coins can either be collateralized or they can be algorithmic. So, for example, USDC is 100% backed by US Treasury bills. So it's a collateralized stable coin. And Tether's the same, but it's a little bit different because it's not fully backed. But it is, again, one of those collateralized stable coins where they supposedly hold 70% of reserves backing up every USDT. Now, Luna's a little bit different. Luna works off a completely different system called an algorithmic stablecoin. So it kind of works on the assumption that $1 of UST will always equal $1 of USD. So how they get that and how they do that is they have 2 tokens. So they have the UST stablecoin they try to peg it at $1, and then they have Luna. So Luna is how you get the USD. So essentially, they have this kind of mechanism that as more and more people pile into the UST, what that does is it burns the Luna supply. So this kind of mechanism, it's a lot like a Ponzi scheme. It works when the price of Luna continues to go up and more people are piling into the UST stablecoin. But as soon as you see a market crash and the price of Luna starts decreasing, and if you get somebody who just attacks the peg just a little bit and shakes confidence in the stable coin, if you have people selling the stable coin and people selling the thing that it's supposed to kind of be working with, the Luna shitcoin, it just creates a massive cascade. So that's essentially what we've seen over the past week. You've watched Luna go from $120 to zero. It is literally, I think it's 5 cents at the moment. So $35 billion of market cap completely evaporated and gone.
I mean, an absolute meltdown. And right now it is sitting at 37 cents, the UST to USD.
Wow.
And like I remember with like Monday seeing maybe Dylan LeClaire say something like, if it gets too close to 98 cents, it's a big problem. Like I think it was at 98.5, and it was like this is when 98.5 cents is whenever we start to see a problem. And so all of a sudden I think I texted you guys at some point and I checked, I was like, holy shit, it's at 75. And so that put the alarm bells off in my mind, actually, of like, you know what, like I actually had I had a situation where I had it sucked because Bitcoin was dipping, and I had to, for cash flow purposes, sell some Bitcoin so that I could, pay for something, and then when the new cash came in, I was going to replenish the Bitcoin. So I was sitting there like at 31, and I was like, I'm getting totally screwed. I'm gonna get hosed here because it, like, of course, dipped down. I'm selling the bottom. Fortunately, I don't know, it was like 29 or 29 and a half whenever I was able to buy back in. It was like a 24-hour period. But like I was sitting there like, you know what? Maybe it would have been a good idea to hold here for a minute, because looking at the macro environment, I realized that this whole thing could unravel. And when everybody was pointing out whenever, Do Kwon was moving all of their Bitcoin reserves, would they move like 1,000, or how many Bitcoin did they have? Like 40,000? Oh, I forget.
Like
10,000.
$1.5 billion of Bitcoin.
And they moved it from their wallet to Binance, and everybody was like, and here we go.
Clinch.
And I mean, frankly, I think that is what, obviously caused the big drawdowns. Now there's 2 elements to that. which is why I think it's impressive how Bitcoin's held up through this. But it just goes that, like, yes, this is speaking to some influencers directly out there. And Luke, you were always the one to tell me, you're like, hey, play nice. Don't, try to like pull me back, rein me in. But like, seriously, whenever you're out there and you are shilling this absolute garbage, and I won't say who was shilling it, but let's just say bang, bang, somebody was shilling it. And, um, and it's so irresponsible. And for somebody like him to be in the space as long as he's been, he knows that it's a scam. He knows it's a fraud. And I don't know. I mean, even like, did you guys see the clip of Peter McCormick on with Pomp, and Pomp was trying to explain it to him, and Peter was like, and it's just kind of sounds like a scam, doesn't it? Like, like he just basically said that, and like Pomp was like, well, no, because what's really cool about it is you do, and it's like, dude, come on, like this isn't a joke. Like, this is real. This is people's livelihoods. So if you live off of the shitcoin casino, and that's how you make your living, and you can sleep at night with that, then that's on you. You've got to reckon that with yourself and with your maker. So put it on you. It's up to you if that's how you want to live. But I love all the people that were calling this out immediately, which my fellow Cory gang member, Cory Clipston, I mean, he doesn't make a lot of friends with the fact that he calls stuff out, but like, the dude's batting pretty damn near 1,000, especially over the last couple of years. And he called it out. Like Brad Mills was calling it. There's tons of people that are calling it out, but it's a shame that there wasn't there's people with such big platforms. And we've said it before, like, okay, Pump is good at the top of the funnel and brings people in, and he was the top of the funnel for me too as well. But that's also a problem, because there's a danger to having that much misinformation for somebody the moment they step in the door. And I don't know. It's just, I cringed whenever Do Kwon was on his pod, and I mean, I don't watch it, but I saw somebody post a clip where Do Kwon was like, we want to hold the most Bitcoin besides Satoshi. It was like, get over yourself, dude. Like, give me a break. Like, if you want to do that, like somebody like Michael Saylor, who has a company that provides value and earns money, then go for it. But if you were going to sit there and try to create something out of thin air and then brag about how you want to be more, like, of course I want to have more Bitcoin than anybody but Satoshi. Like, who doesn't? You can't just do that by scamming people. Anyways,
Yeah,
I've said my piece.
That's the summary of it. It's a scam. It's a scam. All shitcoins a scam. Anything that's not decentralized, or anything that can be attacked in any way, shape, or form, I expect it to be attacked over the next decade, because people can make money out of attacking these scams. So again, that's why I always go back and say, hey, look, it's Bitcoin, and then there's the 18,000 other shitcoins out there. If you're new to the space, and even if you're watching very reputable and very smart people who have large channels shilling a token, and the token's in the top 10 of the quote unquote cryptos, and you have all these institutions labeling it a blue chip cryptocurrency, it's not. Like, Luna was number 6 on CoinMarketCap, and that was only a week ago. It was number 6, worth $40 billion. Today it's worth 0. So obviously, don't listen to the noise. Focus on the signal. Look at the actual facts and the underlying fundamentals. Bitcoin has 200,000 node runners all around the world. It's been attacked multiple times, and it hasn't changed. There's Bitcoin, and then there's the other 12,000 shitcoins that are all centralized.
What are your thoughts, Phil?
I'm so confused on even how it worked, because I think that's still interesting. I'd like to imagine that it's just a copy paste approach to what already happens in fiat markets, traditional markets. And let's be honest, like, that's what shitcoins are fiat. But I kind of want to know who actually did this and whose idea. I heard that somebody called this out in a tweet thread like months ago, or maybe months ago. And I wish I knew who it was, but someone did a thread on, hey, if you're looking for a vulnerability in this network, this is where it is, and this is what could happen. And I think it would take someone like a whale to take advantage of this, or even someone like that's working at the company or for the project themselves. So I wonder if y'all know anything about that, what the main vulnerability, am I saying that right? Vulnerability was. And also, let's kind of dive into like the incentive behind this. I heard basically, did they use their own shitcoin to buy a ton of Bitcoin in order to have that Bitcoin just to have Bitcoin, or to actually have the Bitcoin backing that peg? Because I also heard that was a theory. And really, could this have been like choreographed by someone at the SEC or someone at the SEC or whoever, whatever or organization went in and basically like paid off someone within Terra Luna to have this happen? Because I still just read it back to, this was intentionally done to have a catastrophe and say the crypto market's dangerous. And then additionally, how can, I've heard this from other people on Twitter too, how can they turn this around and blame Bitcoin for all this mess?
Well, I mean, how quickly, like you were saying, how quickly Janet Yellen's out there saying, I think we need to, this is further proof why we need to be able to regulate and protect people. They always want to protect people.
Yeah.
They're always looking for people's best interest. So I think that is a little curious. But yeah, I think basically they brought on investors and used the investors' money to buy the Bitcoin with their own Terra. If I'm correct there.
It's a Ponzi scheme. So the mechanism works as long as the price of Luna is increasing. So Luna pumped all throughout 2021. It'd gone from like $1 to $100. And what's really important is there's a third part of this little, we'll call it a little triangle. So you have the UST stablecoin, you have the Luna. Okay, so that's how you get your US dollars when you want to actually redeem your UST. You get Luna, and so for example, if you have $100 worth of UST and you want to redeem that and get dollars, USD dollars, what they give you is $100 worth of Luna. So if Luna is priced at $50 per Luna and you want to redeem 100 UST, what you do is you sell your 100 UST and they give you 2 Luna, and then you sell your 2 Luna, and that's how you get your $100. So that's how the peg works. Right. And what happened? You go.
I was agreeing. Sorry, should have been on mute. But there is this part of the arbitrage play as well, because I heard that was a big deal. All right, continue, sir.
Yes, I mean, like if the UST peg starts to break down and it starts to go to 99 UST, 98 UST, what's supposed to happen is arbitrageurs step in and say, hey, I'm going to buy a shit ton of UST. And when they buy a shit ton of UST, what it's supposed to do is it actually burns the supply of Luna. So if you burn the supply of Luna, there's less tokens, the price of Luna goes up, and therefore there's more dollars as the price of Luna goes up. There's more US dollars for the people to redeem for the increased demand of the UST. So the mechanism works as long as the price of Luna is continuing to grow up. So you've got more and more US dollars that's redeemable for the people who want to sell their UST. But the problem is we're in this kind of quote unquote mini bear market, as I'm going to call it, because I don't think we have these traditional 18-month bear markets where Bitcoin crashes 85% anymore. We're in a mini bear market, and you've got a shitstorm for Luna. So obviously the Luna price has been crashing a lot. And when the Luna price is crashing a lot and a lot of people are trying to sell UST, the Ponzi scheme doesn't work. That's where shit breaks down. It's essentially a Ponzi scheme. You need more and more people coming in to actually keep the peg fixed.
So where does the purchasing of Bitcoin fit into all of this? Like, first of all, how do they purchase all the Bitcoin with what money?
Yeah.
And then when did they start selling it?
So the peg actually broke in 2021. The UST Luna peg broke in 2021. And that's why Do Kwon set up this thing called LFG, the Luna Foundation something. But essentially, that's what they used to go out there and buy Bitcoin. And they also bought some shit coins like Solana and Avalanche to kind of use as reserves. So when the peg actually starts to break, in the UST peg breaks, and if the price of Luna is crashing, their idea is, okay, we need another asset to sell to defend that peg when shit starts going south. So shit started going south a week ago when there's this thing called the Anchor Protocol. So this Anchor Protocol, this Anchor Protocol is another shitcoin, and it's on obviously the Luna blockchain. And what they were doing were they were saying, hey, look, come and deposit your UST stablecoin in Anchor, and we'll give you 18% yield on it. So naturally, people were piling into that trade all throughout 2021. People were getting 18% on their UST. And as more and more people were coming in and buying the UST to get that 18% yield, guess what happened? Obviously, Luna is getting burned. So you're minting UST stablecoins and you're burning Luna. That's the mechanism. So what happens when you burn the supply of Luna? Price goes up. That's why you're in a bull market for all of 2021 with that shitcoin Luna. It was essentially this artificially manipulated bull market. But what happened was a week ago, people started withdrawing their UST from Anchor because they were a little bit worried about rumors circulating. There was the peg weakened a little bit a week ago, and people were like, oh shit, I want out. And $5 billion flowed out of Anchor last weekend. And that was like 30% of all the UST that was staked into this staking protocol. And that's obviously when shit started going south.
So it starts going south when the price of UST drops, because if the price of UST drops, then there's more Luna that doesn't get burned.
Yep. So if the price of UST is dropping, that means you've got people who are supposed to come in and buy UST, the arbitrages, and that obviously, what does that do? If you're getting more and more UST, you obviously burn Luna. But if you're getting less and less UST, you're dumping supply of Luna onto the market. You're essentially burning
hyperinflation.
Yeah, and that's what you've seen with Luna. It's hyperinflated essentially.
They IMF loan sharked themselves.
Exactly.
And so they started selling Bitcoin to, I guess, have capital to buy more UST, or when and why did they start selling Bitcoin?
Pretty much, yeah, you nailed it. To buy more UST and defend that peg, because the price of Luna was absolutely dropping and cratering. So they needed the Bitcoin, the Avalanche, and the Solana as kind of a backup treasury
right
reserve.
So it's like they were doing their own like stock buybacks by selling Bitcoin.
Exactly. So the issue is under collateralized pegs. When you have these artificial algorithmic pegs, they're always going to break.
Wow.
It's so funny. I mean, it's not sad, but like, I mean, it was just like 2 weeks ago that Do Kwon was like, I want to have more Bitcoin than everybody but Satoshi. And then like, whoops, he had to sell it. Like, whoops, that was had to take it off of I don't know where they had it. But they put it on the Binance, which this will be a good time to just do a quick shout out to Bitbox02 hardware wallet. Get one of those at shiftcrypto.ch/Bitcoin Made Simple and use the promo code Bitcoin Made Simple to get 5% off and take your coins off of the exchanges, please. This is not a drill, people. If you noticed, and we can go back to this, or we can touch on this after we wrap up with the Luna stuff, but notice that little love letter that Coinbase sent out to everybody. This ties into getting your coins off the exchanges and putting it in your Bitbox02 hardware wallet. 5% off with promo code Bitcoin Made Simple. Yeah, Coinbase let out a little love letter to everybody that said, hey, FYI, if we go bankrupt, the Bitcoin that is quote unquote yours on our exchange, we will keep that. That's ours. So FYI, if you have your Bitcoin on any exchange, take it off right now. But back to Luna.
Just on
And
Coinbase too.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
think a lot of people are saying, "Oh no, but don't worry, it's just a precautionary text and an update to the SEC filing. There's nothing to see here." But guess what? Coinbase is fucking insolvent. They just posted a $400 million loss for Q1 2022. You think it's a coincidence that their stock price is down like 90% since the listing? They have a $400 million loss, and then they update their filing to the SEC saying, "Oh, if we are insolvent, we can confiscate everybody's Bitcoin."
Yeah.
What are the odds?
I think I follow under this category of people that came to Bitcoin and then they start to learn how exactly the financial levers and policies and just the plumbing and tools of work. And these examples, basically the crypto world are prime examples of copy pasting what happens in the real world. And if you weren't paying attention to like what was happening in Greece when they did the bail-ins, because I wasn't, I've just heard about them, but that's essentially what it is. Like Coinbase will do a bail-in, so fuck you. Like wake up and smell the napalm. And I think this is really, really valuable to people that are maybe younger and getting into the crypto world for the first time. And this only makes them eventually realize that they're going to get their hands burned if they haven't been burned already. And then it's just a prime example and selling point for Bitcoin itself, because not your keys, not your coins, all that jazz. But that's been like the most valuable thing about learning about Bitcoin is I learned not so much about Bitcoin, but so much of how the world works and why it shouldn't work that way.
So what do you guys think? I mean, we're looking at the price of Bitcoin right now, and we're at 28,400. Did you guys think that would happen ever again?
No, we hit 25 something at like 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock Eastern this morning. But
wow, I wish I would have changed my orders to 25 instead of 29. I had 3 orders fill yesterday in 29. Which usually I just spot buy. Usually if I'm buying something, I just go in and buy it. But I was like, I have a feeling it's gonna dip a little bit, so I'm gonna earn some extra sats here and be patient. But yeah, I think I don't know. I mean, Luke, I'm curious to get your thoughts because you're the perma bull. I tried to get Magoo on, but he is not available. So he said we can have a chat with him here soon. But yeah.
It's perfect time.
By the way, on that thread, I was in a space last night saying they were like, "Hey, Phil, where's Luke? Where's Mr. Permable? How's he feeling now?"
It sounds like I need to pop into a few spaces then, because I'm still fucking bullish. I've been of the firm opinion that you're not going to have these prolonged 12 to 18 month bear markets where, you have 85% corrections in Bitcoin and the price of Bitcoin just looks like it's dead. So in 2014, 2015, the price of Bitcoin was, it bottomed out for like a 12 to 18 month period. You could have had a long time to buy the corn. I don't remember the exact price range, but it was $200 to $300. And then it was the same thing in 2018. Bitcoin had an 85% correction from 20,000 to 3,000. And you had like a long 6 to 8 month opportunity to buy in the 3,000 lows. I don't think you're going to see that ever again. I've been of the firm opinion that of that since 2021, when we were all talking about stock to flow and models. And I said, no, models are dead. Models are over. The billionaires are here. The models are over. I did think that the models were going to break on the upside, not the downside. But obviously I also said we'd have a correlation to the equity markets, and that's what we've had. And even if we do get one of these really large corrections, I think it's going to be just like the 2020 crash. I think any bear market you see in Bitcoin where you get a large 70 or 80% correction, I don't think it's going to be like the 2018 or the 2015 bear markets where you get this long 6 to 12 month opportunity to buy the bottom or somewhere close to the bottom. I think you've got large players who who will aggressively be stacking the dip. And I think that's what you've seen when Bitcoin spiked down to 25K, when Bitcoin spiked to 28K. Nayib Bukele came out and said, hey, look, we just bought another. How much Bitcoin did he buy the other day? Was it 50 million or he bought another
40, but whatever. Yeah.
40 million? Yeah. But that's what I expect to see every time the price of Bitcoin has one of these crashes. You're watching nation states buying the dip, quietly buying the dip. So I'm still very, very bullish. I don't think that Bitcoin's going to have one of these prolonged 12 to 18 month bear markets going forward because, any correction you get that's bigger than 60%, I think it's going to be like a flash crash like 2020. It's a long ramble, but that's my
Luke,
thoughts.
That's interesting because I'm curious. The Fed's going to keep raising rates. And you're probably going to see more capital flight, but I think I'm taking this from Magoo partially, but I was also in a Real Vision Spaces yesterday, which was actually really helpful,
surprising,
enlightening. They had Jim Bianco and the CEO of Celsius, but they were talking about real stuff because Dylan LeClaire actually DM'd the host a question about, is there such thing as Terra Luna contagion? And long story short, any contagion that is there is going to take a while to play out. And that's why I think that in addition to rate hikes continuing, is we're just going to see more suppression, because what they're trying to do with raising rates is they have to force a recession, which will probably maybe turn into a depression, but they're doing that the Fed's doing that to, again, increase the strength of the dollar and just do their version of a great reset and not Davos's, and just to quell demand and reset where demand should be, asset prices be damned. But they use the example of when Lehman Brothers went down in 2008, but then it took until 2009 for the economy to really crumble. And so I think we might be seeing the beginning of that maybe. And so maybe we keep seeing Bitcoin kind of crab walking to where it is now. Maybe it goes lower. I don't really know, because Bitcoiners are pretty bullish and they'll probably scoop up cheap sats when they can. So maybe it's not too late for Cory to put in more limit orders for the 25 range or so. But I think this could actually take a lot longer to see Bitcoin rally again, if it's meant to be, whenever that's going to be. But this is definitely buying opportunity, not just for Bitcoin, but even like hard, real assets that people want and need in general.
Like milk and lumber.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always in a buy zone. But I'm in like just put it this way, there's a couple business deals that owe me some like significant money, that I'm just, patiently waiting on. And back whenever we were in like 40, 50, 60 range, I was like, hey, man, I really hope that that money comes in before we hit like 100K. But now I'm like salivating and like texting those people like, hey, any update on that deal? Because I know exactly where that money is going. So hopefully we trade sideways into that point. But I feel like I kind of brought this on because I have said multiple times I wanted to see what happens when Michael Saylor's underwater. And they're underwater right now. Because the one I know that he was talking to, other billionaires and, CEOs, but like one of the messaging I didn't like, I heard him at one point say something like, oh, look, I told a bunch of, of these, people that own these companies, like, hey, if you want to make $1 billion, just buy Bitcoin and put it in, and sit on it for a little bit of time. And I was like, I don't know if that's the right message. Because he definitely enjoyed a meteoric rise. Like, he bought 400 million worth or whatever, and it just took off.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of disagree. I think if you do buy $1 billion of Bitcoin, it's just simple maths. The more and more people that try to buy $1 billion, price will rise. You sit on it for a year or two, you're good to go. I think a lot of people are talking about Saylor and him being underwater, and what happens if Michael Saylor gets liquidated? Lots of people are talking about this $21,000 price level, saying, if Bitcoin goes to $21,000, Saylor gets liquidated. And obviously, I think Saylor came out a day or two ago and he put out a pretty detailed tweet saying, no. I only have a Bitcoin collateralized loan for like $205 million. For that to be liquidated, price of Bitcoin has to go to like $3,000. So I just think, the FUD about Michael Saylor being liquidated, it's bullshit. It's all it is. It's FUD.
I think, I mean, but this is a good time for people to remember to not use leverage to buy Bitcoin. Because I mean, it's you could have a flash crash, you know what I mean? Like, and if you think the longer you're in, the more immune you are. I don't know. I mean, I know Bitcoiners that I've talked to, and like it gets dangled in front of people, and they're like, I have enough Bitcoin, I can risk a little bit. And then all of a sudden you're staring at the possibility of either having to post more sats to cover yourself, or your Bitcoin's gone.
Yeah, I can tell you what, I'm sleeping pretty easy at night. I think there's even a lot of Bitcoiners out there who are maximalists who have some leverage stacks. I've been having some conversations with some pretty well-known Bitcoiners who have stacks of Bitcoins leveraged, and they're getting margin calls at the moment. So I'm sleeping easy. I'm sitting on a nice small US dollar stockpile, and I've been loving buying the dip. Great. I think it's great advice. Don't use leverage, and not your keys, not your cheese.
So were you hoarding cash at the moment to wait for a dip?
Yeah, I've been in cash since 61K.
How what percentage cash to Bitcoin?
So I'm like 95% Bitcoin, and I keep like 5% of cash, which is like pretty much, like a 6 to 12 month kind of living expense. That's how I view it. Like I have 12 months worth of emergency funds / living expenses. And I just pretty much obviously hold some of that. And obviously if Bitcoin gets super cheap, I'm buying fucking Bitcoin super cheap. And like I get, you go.
I was gonna say, and you just start plowing that 5% back in.
Yeah, and since 61K, I've kind of been getting like monthly paychecks, and I just kind of been sitting that aside in cash since 61K, because the market was obviously bearish. Like if you break out above that 65K all-time high and you retest it and you fail that retest, it's obviously not good. It's a change in trend. So I've kind of been, short-term bearish since we lost 61K. Short
I thought
term.
you're nothing but wow, this is the most bearish sentiment ever. If Luke Mikic is bearish, then we're in trouble, folks.
So I go from being 99% all in Bitcoin to 95% all in Bitcoin. I have a little bit more rainy day cash funds. I'm not sure if that's bearish, but that's how I rock and roll.
Just to touch on the Saylor thing, I think it is a little irresponsible, because I'm still of the opinion that he did this for marketing and to just boost up MicroStrategy again. Bitcoin was a prime opportunity for him to do that. And the people that he was pitching this idea to, yes, maybe some of them put Bitcoin on their treasury. I mean, you can go to Rodolfo Novak's like Bitcoin treasury companies.com, whatever the hell it is. But also realize that I think there was a lot of fiat money behind this as well. And I mean, the price of their stock went up and people looked at that as a Bitcoin derivative. And then for it to tank, I mean, I wonder how many people's money were at stake and how many of them feel just kind of like burned and betrayed. Like the real thing, I guess their real loss is not understanding what Bitcoin is and not buying Bitcoin just directly instead of using MicroStrategy as a quasi ETF for it. But then again, you can't expect these people that have been in the legacy system for so long and are stubborn in their old ways to buy into Bitcoin and see it for what it is. And so, not that Saber was being disingenuous, I just think that it was reckless, which goes back to don't leverage your Bitcoin, don't be stupid, be sitting on fiat, because really, until I think the dollar dies, cash is king, or until assets get repriced as they should, cash is always going to be king. But it's nice if most of your cash is Bitcoin, but not Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin.
Yeah, fuck Bitcoin Cash. I think it's really interesting that the FASB accounting, I'm just reading this tweet at the moment, but essentially that FASB accounting trick has just kind of been changed in the past day or so. So
What
I
is
think
that?
so it essentially talks about how corporate treasuries use accounting tricks for their balance sheet. So Michael Saylor's, he's famously talked about this FASB accounting regulation being very bad for corporations that come in and stack Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Because I believe, I'm not an expert in this, pleb, so please correct this on Twitter if I fuck it up, but essentially it fucks up with your balance sheet and your quarterly reportings with Bitcoin, because the way they track Bitcoin or measure Bitcoin is they take the lowest reading in a quarter. So if Bitcoin crashed really, really low, the Bitcoin that's on Saylor's balance sheet kind of gets marked to market at the lowest price that Bitcoin was during that entire quarter. So I think that's how the FASB thing previously worked. And Saylor was like, obviously corporations don't want to hold a treasury asset that can be predatorily marked a lot lower than it actually is due to some sort of flash crash or some sort of correction. Bitcoin's price is very volatile. So it's kind of seen as a little bit of a risk holding Bitcoin on your balance sheet, just because it plays around with your quarterly balance sheet accounting updates and shit like that. But that got changed in the past 24 hours, I think. Again, haven't looked into it deeply, but I think that's fascinating that gets changed as everybody's talking FUD about Michael Saylor. That kind of, if I were to put my tinfoil hat on, that kind of really makes me think Michael Saylor could be on the side of the US government. And if we want to get into conspiracy theories, maybe this could lead us down the path of who attacked stablecoins and for what reason. I think there's a two-packed punch for why somebody attacked Terra Luna stablecoins. Obviously, the Occam's razor explanation is just it was Wall Street bankers trying to make money. But I think there's two potential reasons of why it got attacked. One, obviously, it crushed the price of Bitcoin so that nation states and US bankers can continue accumulating the dip. And I think the second reason could be you create FUD around all of the unbacked USD stablecoins so that they all have to adopt a method like the USDC stablecoin, which is made and backed by Square, which just had a $400 million cash injection by BlackRock, which is the Federal Reserve. So obviously, I think they're your two reasons for why this Luna thing's been attacked. I think somebody's got a tap on the shoulder and said, hey, go and attack all of these unbacked stablecoins so then we can put old Yoda lady Janet Yellen up in front of a camera and we can tell her to make all of the other stablecoins back themselves with US treasuries, just like USDC is. And that fixes the petrodollar breakdown. That fixes the Bretton Woods 3 era where nobody wants to buy US debt. So everybody's squealing and hollering and crying, saying, oh, the US dollar's going to die. Look at China. Look at Russia. Look at Saudi Arabia. Everybody's running away from US debt and the petrodollar system's going to break down. Well, I personally think that the US has many tricks up its sleeve to get people to buy US treasuries. And I think one of those tricks up their sleeve is making stable coins all around the world back themselves with US treasury debt, just like USDC is today. And that's $50 billion in size. So it's certainly not peanuts. And the stablecoin market is growing rapidly. I think it was $5 billion only 18 months ago. Today, the entire stablecoin market is $180 billion.
So destroying a stable coin is the way that they strengthen stable coins to strengthen the dollar. I'm a little confused there.
Destroy a stable coin that is algorithmically unbacked. So you create FUD about unbacked stable coins and you say, hey, look, your peg broke because you're unbacked. We need to fix that. You can still be a stable coin, but you need to be like USDC over here. See how they're all safe and they're clean and they're KYC. And most importantly, they're backed by US treasuries.
Nice. So is anywhere in here like throwing Bitcoin into the mix and backing them with Bitcoin?
I don't think so. I think it's deployed by the US government, the US Fed, to continually strengthen the US dollar.
And I think we're in a scenario where it's a Cold War at the moment. You know, the financial war, the currency war. It's you know, I've said this so many times, but they're gonna throw the kitchen sink at us. You know, so like, if the price of Bitcoin puked down to, 12K, I wouldn't be shocked. Like that's the weird thing. Like, think about how much they manipulate the market, and yet Bitcoin or Doquan sells. What did he have? Was it 1,000 Bitcoin or 10,000 Bitcoin? Somebody check my math on that. Whatever it was a huge portion of a huge chunk of Bitcoin, and they dumped it, and like Bitcoin actually held the line at like 27, 28, 29. That's kind of impressive.
I'm bullish as fuck. Everybody's fucking bearish and squealing, and like this is a perfect storm to crush the price of Bitcoin. And we're holding up at 27, 28, 29K, 28,185. If I look at the block clock to my left, I think like these shit coins are literally going to zero. Equities markets are absolutely puking, and Bitcoin's holding up at 28K. And I would encourage anyone just to have a look at the massive volume. Every single time Bitcoin has dipped under 30K, somebody's buying the dip aggressively. And I continue to be ridiculously bullish.
So yeah, I mean that's why I don't think it will, puke lower. But I will say I'm just curious what you guys think of this. Because when I asked Magoo when I had him on a couple months ago, if anyone hasn't heard that episode, go check it out. You can learn all you want to know about who Magoo is, except for who he actually is and where he lives. But I said, what was I think one of the big things that he said he was using as why he called the drawdown is he was like, it was like market sentiment. Like there was just so much euphoria and hopium. And I kind of get that sense now. Like we're bullish right here, but like, anytime the price would pump, I was getting that feeling. I kind of liken it to make a sports analogy. In hockey, like I would always call these like hope passes, where like, players that were like really talented would make these passes that were like, very low percentage chance of happening, but you could just feel it. They were like, I hope it happens. And they're like relying on their, superior skills to, allow it to go through. And so I was like, would tell people like, we don't want to do hope passes. We don't want to make hope plays. We want to make the smart play, the right play, and stay on. And I felt like a lot of the discussion around Bitcoin was a lot of like hopium. You know what I mean? It was like, holy crap, the moment, I mean, you guys will see it on Bitcoin Twitter, the moment the price goes up 1K, everybody's like, here we go, like ladders up, Bitcoin's like my dick, only up and to the right. And like it's just like people going nuts, and you're like, there's nothing wrong with celebrating, but I don't know. And I also get the sense too that it's like sometimes I just want to say things like, be like, I feel like some of y'all are too reliant on Bitcoin's price, and it shows.
What if
I mean?
what if you're up into the left, because you could be facing the left, and who's right? Am I right? You're right.
It's a matter of perspective.
Hey, well, when you're as small as me, you don't bend either way. It's just a shriveled shrimp. But anyway, back on the price talk. I think price talk is is important. I think price is the signal that Bitcoin adoption is increasing. Like it's as simple as Bitcoin has a cap supply, and increasing price means there's more and more people coming into the market. So I think it's good to awaken the troops and awaken the normies when the price of Bitcoin is rising, because it brings them into the space. And as soon as you've got their attention by saying, hey, look, number go up, number go up. What's causing that? That's a beautiful little avenue for me that I use to get my foot in the door and say, hey, look, the reason the price of Bitcoin's going up is because it's this beautiful once in a species invention where it has a cap supply. It's the first time we've created a form of money that exhibits the properties of absolute scarcity. The reason that the price is going up, like I'm pointing at and squealing about, and why we're all excited about, is because more people are adopting this new emergent technology. So like that I'm probably one of those historical girls on Twitter who does bull post and gets all very bullish when the price goes up. But I like to reinforce the fact when I get a normie interested by the price, I shill the fundamentals of Bitcoin straight away. I think that's a good foot in the door approach that I'm probably guilty of using far too often. But obviously, yes, for us who, once you understand the fundamentals of Bitcoin, you don't give a fuck about where the price is. I'm loving stacking this dip at 25K, but obviously it's hard to get normies to understand what Bitcoin is without getting the interest peaked in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I will say I enjoyed seeing the amount of people come out and say that they are basically newly minted Bitcoin maxis after seeing the absolute, bloodbath that took place in the alt market, the shart market, the sharket. But
Shark.
but yeah, I mean, I think we probably have to wrap up here soon, right, Phil? You have to.
Whatever.
We've crushed all the news this week. We could talk
What do you
about
guys want to? I mean, just in general, do you think the hopium's gone? Do you think people have kind of like?
Well, it is in regards to our bet that we had, Corey, because I think we both guessed that
We
the
both
price
went
would be
over.
above 41,000. And
Well, missed by a little bit.
yeah. So my new prediction now for next week. We're 2 weeks late for News Made Simple, so maybe we doubling up for 2 weeks. Double or nothing. So
Double or nothing. Let's do it.
Luke, you're keeping track of this, right?
Yeah, of course I am.
You have one job.
Yeah, one job. You're
So
killing me, Smalls.
I really don't know what to guess. Like I said, I think this might be a long drag. We might see more bleeding, or at least a crab. So
Let's go power pivot. I want a power pivot.
I'm going under.
Powell's not going to pivot, dude. This is the pivot. People expect that he's going to do bailouts.
I like that.
This is his pivot. That.
What happens if Powell keeps raising rates and he hyperinflates Turkey, hyperinflates Sri Lanka, hyperinflates Lebanon?
Well, they have to adopt that might mean that there's capital. That might mean there's capital flight. But after that happens, everyone else in the US that's investing will get scared, and the price of equities in Bitcoin will go down, like what happened this week. Plus, well, the CPI report had people scared. So I think that's what ultimately kind of brought us to where we are, in addition to Terra Luna. But man, I don't know. I don't know if it's stupid or conservative to go with like 31 at like most. Like a week from today, are we at 31? I don't even know.
I think
I'm so unexperienced in like markets in general. And This is like the first year I'm paying attention to how this shit works. So I don't have like all these notches under my belt from experience of gambling on markets. So I'm learning in real time, people. This is what you pay for.
I'm gonna go low. I think we might go under 28.
Really? I'm gonna stick with 31 then.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's funny because we've all been like, oh, it's still a bull market. It's still a bull market. And this whole time
No,
I've wanted to ask
dude, nobody's saying that.
I
Lucas.
am. I am. I've been firmly of the opinion. I published that article in Bitcoin Magazine November 2021. And I said,
No.
you will not see traditional 12 to 18 month bear markets moving forward that have 85% corrections with
Well,
Bitcoin.
okay.
Well, we've got like,
Well, we have to change the definition of what bull market means. I think these are what bear markets look like in Bitcoin.
Exactly. Read the article. I said bear markets moving forward have fundamentally changed. I expect to see 4 to 6 month bear markets where the dips are quick and Bitcoin's bought up quickly, scooped off the exchanges because nation states are buying the dip.
well, I mean, this is kind of, I mean, are you counting these as too many bear markets?
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. I published that article in like November 2021 when we're in the 60K region. So obviously we saw like a little mini bear market. We've seen another little mini bear market.
I just want to know from like plebs that have been here before, because I'm, class of 2020. So I'm like, at what point in the bear market do you know you're in a bear market? Because
Honestly, I'm at the point where I think that's irrelevant because what Bitcoin is doing is moving with the actual markets, like the NASDAQ and whatever. Traditionally, when Bitcoin was a little thing, it would boom and it would bust. And that's because it was being, and I don't know how like junk bonds or just penny stocks trade, but I can imagine they traded like that. And that's why they were also so hypersensitive to the happening. And I think now because it's becoming larger and being realized by institutions and is being able to be somewhat manipulated with features, I think that's really just moving with the greater market thing. And so until it completely decouples from legacy finance, then I think the quote unquote bears or the beginning of a recession, you can lump Bitcoin in with that. Or either that or it just takes off. But yes, I agree that the traditional bear market cycles are done. But I think what Bitcoin does is that it's going to stay correlated with the NASDAQ or even like gold. I think the evolution of its like trading movement might go from like tech stocks, NASDAQ, whatever, and then become more legit and people will treat it like gold and start trading like gold because it does like in some ways just from the market reports I watch from Tom Longo and what he does, and then eventually like moons. So that's how I see it. That time scale, I don't know how long that takes, like 10, 20 years. I'm just pulling numbers out my ass, but that's how I see it.
I'm
But
a 12.
probably longer because I've also heard Tom say that dollars got 2 or 3 years. So
the dollar goes down.
Hang
2 or
on.
3 years and it's over.
Say that again. Luongo thinks the dollar's got 2 years.
I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think he also had in mind like a civil war happening or World War III, where this goes next. And I think maybe capital markets as we know it, or at least the dollar, has maybe 2 to 3 years. I don't really know where he stands on that now. I heard him say that last week, but I don't know. It's just really revealing to hear someone say that this shit's only got a few years. So maybe he'll backtrack on that. And he's always awesome and transparent of like where he fucks up and where he's right and not. And it was just kind of like a wake up because he had to zoom out and just not only think of things on the macro scale, but geopolitical and socially, how people are being affected socially and like uprising because they don't want their kids learning about, what they shouldn't be learning about, whatnot. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Trying to stay the
Yeah.
thread that needle there.
No,
I hear you.
So I mean, it's just kind of like the fall room, I guess. And so maybe that happens in 2 or 3 years. Maybe it doesn't. Who knows?
It's funny too. So speaking of Rome, Jesus says, "Pay unto Caesar what is Caesar's."
Yeah. And God was the gods. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's really funny about that is that that's actually basically Jesus, like making fun of government.
Yeah, it is.
Because he's like, pay into theirs, pay into them with what is theirs because they, like they think this is important. Like they think they own that.
Yeah.
So
There's a podcast called the Anarcho Christian Podcast, which basically makes the arguments that in the Bible Jesus was like the first anarcho capitalist.
yeah, oh yeah. I mean, like, Jesus would be a Bitcoiner. There's no doubt about it. Like,
He just wouldn't be a douchebag.
yeah, he'd be, he'd be like Breed Love without the bit clout. Oh, shots fired. Just kidding. Just kidding, Robert. I'm sure you're one of our listeners. But
yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's where he gets all his deep word salads from.
Yeah.
Well, I've taken shots at Pomp and Breed Love. I guess I'm not making friends today, but hey, if you're gonna try and take advantage of people and take their money, then it's on you.
Go on, take the money and run.
But yeah, no, definitely. I love people go like, why do you think money is religious and stuff like that? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, remember the time that like they were making the temple into a market and Jesus just flipped out?
Yeah.
The one time he like ever showed anger. Yeah, yeah, I think money is pretty important, and I think that's why we stick with saying the quiet parts out loud, because if you fix the money, you fix the world, and that's something that a lot of people don't want you to know.
Yeah.
It's a great place to wrap this episode. It's a weekly edition of the Bitcoin Weekly News made simple on the Bitcoin Made Simple podcast network.
Brought to you by Luke's
Bitbox.
favorite. Go ahead, talk about it.
Oh, my favorite, sexy, slick, and sleek Bitcoin hardware wallet, the Bitbox 02. Oh my goodness. Coinbase, the largest exchange in the world, has literally come out and said, guess what? We're insolvent and your Bitcoin is not your Bitcoin. Get your Bitcoin into your own wallet. And we personally think that you should go grab a Bitbox 02 hardware wallet because it's the simplest. It's the easiest hardware wallet to use out of all of them. I've used them all. I've used the Cold Card Ledger, Trezor. I've used the desktop wallets like Electrum and Spectre, and the Bitbox 02 hardware wallet is the easiest of them all to use. So you can get, is it 5% off if you use a promo code Bitcoin Made Simple? Go grab one. Shiftcrypto.io. Go check them out.
Nope.
Oh. Shiftcrypto.ch / Bitcoin Made Simple.
What does the CH stand for? What domain is that?
Zurich. Oh, no, Zurich, Switzerland.
Why do I think it's IO?
I don't know. Yeah, CH, my best friend from college he might be a listener. I don't know. Billy, if you're a listener, text me. Yeah, my best friend from college is from Switzerland. So I've always likened it. I don't know where the CH comes from, but I assume Zurich has something to do with it.
Czech?
I had some great times in Zurich. It's a good city.
Wait, I'm so stupid. Did I say Czech? They spelled with the CZ. I'm dumb. Anyway.
All right. Well, what's up, Luke?
Nope. I was just going to wrap us up. I was going to say, go check out Zurich, go check out Lugano in Switzerland. And while you're there, grab a Bitbox 02 hardware wallet. That's all we've got.
All right, plebs.
Also, one last thing, again, super important about the show, why we hear and why we do what we do, because we are saying the quiet parts out loud. And
like and subscribe, smash that like button.
Yeah.
And
like those quiet parts.
Make those quiet, but yeah, hit those quiet parts so they say it really loud. And we're going to start a campaign to get Phil off of fiat, because the more successful the podcast is, then maybe Phil could do this as his full-time job. And for those of you that like a boy named Sue, he can be all to you. You can have him all to yourself. All right, guys. We'll catch you guys next week.
So yeah.
Hold up. Still recording. Still going live.
Penis.